I'm Andy Panko, owner of Tenon Financial. Welcome to Retirement Planning Demystified. This video will explain the 2 steps needed to answer the question, how much money do I need to retire? But before we start, remember this video is only general explanations and education. It's not specific tax, legal, or investment advice. Before considering acting on anything you see in this video, first consult with your tax, legal, or investment advisor. I'm frequently asked the question, how much money do I need to retire? And each time, my answer is unequivocally, it depends. There isn't a single answer or rule of thumb that will universally apply to everyone. The answer is going to be unique to you and your personal and financial circumstances. Ultimately, the amount of money you need to retire is determined by answering 3 questions and then using what's called the 4% rule. First, the 3 questions help you figure out how much income you'll need to withdraw from your retirement savings in each year of retirement. Then, the 4% rule provides an estimate of how much savings you'll need to safely create that level of income. Let's start with the 3 questions. The first question is, how long will I live? According to recent data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, people who were 60 years old in 2017 were expected to live until age 83.3. The life expectancy was a little shorter for those who were younger than 60 and a little longer for those who were older. These life expectancy data are just averages. Some people will live longer while others will die sooner. So how do you know how long you will live? It's impossible to know for sure, but there are at least a couple ways to come up with a reasonable estimate. One way is to use your relatives as a proxy. If your blood relatives have a history of living beyond the average life expectancy, there's a good chance you may too, and vice versa. However, you must also account for factors unique to you that may result in you having a shorter or longer life expectancy than your family. As an example, tobacco use and poor eating habits may shorten your life, while regular exercise and a low-stress career may lengthen it. Another option is to use a life expectancy calculator. There are many online calculators, such as the one from www.livingto100.com, that use your demographic and lifestyle factors to come up with your personal life expectancy. The second of the 3 questions is, how much total income will I need in each year of retirement? It's admittedly difficult to know what your expenses will be next year, let alone in 5 or 10 years, and so forth. But without trying to at least estimate your future expenses, you're flying blind when it comes to retirement planning. A good starting point is to look at your expenses while you're still working and adjust them for how they may change in retirement. And don't get too hung up on trying to guess future inflation at this stage of the process. For now, just come up with what you think your total expenses will be when you first start retirement. Here are the larger expenses and their common retirement-related adjustments. First is housing. Do you plan on staying in your current home? If so, your housing expenses likely won't change much unless you decide to pay off or refinance your mortgage. Do you plan on downsizing to a smaller home? In this case, you'll potentially pay less taxes, insurance, utilities, and maintenance. Do you plan on keeping your current home but also renting or buying a vacation home? If so, add up the expected additional costs. Next is healthcare. Will your employer continue to provide health insurance after you retire, or will you be on your own? When you stop working, will you be at least 65 years of age and therefore old enough to sign up for Medicare? Or will you retire before 65 and need to pay full price for private health insurance before becoming eligible for Medicare? Regardless what type of healthcare coverage you plan on having, you'll have to do some homework and research the anticipated costs. While this exercise isn't enjoyable, it's very important. Thankfully, there are a lot of good online resources to help provide estimated total annual healthcare costs. If you need to buy private health insurance on the marketplace, you can use the estimator from www.healthcare.gov. When you're eligible for Medicare, you can instead use the one from www.medicare.gov. The next category is taxes. All else equal, once you stop working, your taxes will go down because you'll no longer have to pay FICA taxes, which are payroll taxes that help fund Medicare and Social Security. The combined FICA tax rate is 7.65%. When you stop working, you'll no longer have to pay that. There are also other special tax provisions that apply to certain retiree income sources, such as Social Security, pensions, and retirement account withdrawals. As an example, no more than 85% of Social Security benefits are taxable at the federal level. Additionally, most states don't tax Social Security at all. Furthermore, many states don't tax a portion of pensions or distributions from IRAs, 401ks, and 403bs. Putting this all together, your income in retirement is likely to be taxed less than your income while you're working. Considering how complex the US income tax system is, it's difficult to accurately estimate future taxes. However, there are calculators provided by places like www.smartasset.com that do a respectable job of providing good estimates. Next, don't forget leisure activities. It's been said before that when you retire, every day is Saturday. In retirement, you'll potentially have a lot more free time, and you'll likely find it easy to fill that time with traveling, hobbies, going out to eat, going to the movies, and so forth. So be realistic with how much more you think you'll spend on vacations and leisure activities in retirement. The third question is, what sources of retirement income will I have outside of savings? The biggest shortcoming with rules of thumb regarding how much you need to save for retirement is they don't account for financial resources you may have outside of your savings. At one extreme, if all your expected retirement expenses will be covered by stable lifetime income sources like Social Security and pensions, you potentially won't need any retirement savings. At the other end of the spectrum, if you won't have any sources of income other than your savings, you're going to need a lot of money to cover 100% of your retirement expenses. There are a few common non-saving sources of retirement income. First is Social Security. This is potentially the most important income you'll have in retirement. Social Security is one of the few sources of stable and secure lifetime income that will increase with inflation. And even after you die, it may provide benefits to your surviving spouse, children, and/or dependent parents. You can create an online Social Security account at www.ssa.gov to see your estimated Social Security benefits. Next are pensions. While increasingly rare in private sector employment, many public sector employers still provide traditional retirement pensions. If you're eligible for a pension, you can ask your employer for more information about what your expected benefit may be. Then there are annuities. At their simplest, annuities are pensions you buy from an insurance company. But not all annuities are created equal. Some are simple, fixed streams of lifetime income. Others are complicated and expensive concoctions that are part pension, part mutual fund, and part life insurance. Because of all the bells and whistles in these Frankenstein-like products, it's really hard to say how much income you can expect from them. On the other hand, with the plain vanilla annuities, it's pretty easy to estimate the income you'll get by using calculators like the one at www.immediateannuities.com. You can also use your home equity to generate income. If you're a homeowner, your house is likely one of your largest assets. The amount of equity in your home is equal to the value of the property minus any loans you have against it. If you have a lot of home equity and you don't have goals to leave the house to your heirs, it may make sense to consider unlocking the equity to use while you're still alive. And finally, maybe you'll have inheritance. Generally speaking, you shouldn't count on getting any inheritance unless it's already been removed from the original owner's estate and you're now its legal beneficiary, or you know with a good amount of certainty that the person from whom you'll be inheriting will soon be passing on. Once you've gone through the three questions, you'll have an idea of how much income you'll need to generate from your retirement savings each year, and for how many years. Let's look at an example. Assume you plan on retiring at age 65, and after going through question 1 and doing your longevity homework, you figure you may live until 95, which means you'll have 30 years of retirement. And based on your income projections from question 2, you expect to need about $100,000 per year of total income. Then you went through question 3 and determined you'll have 2 sources of retirement income outside of your savings. Specifically, you'll have about $30,000 per year of Social Security and another $30,000 from a pension. That means you'll need to pull about $40,000 of income from your savings each year to meet your $100,000 of total income needs. So now here's a big question. How much money will you need to generate that $40,000 each year for your expected 30 years of retirement? One of the best estimation tools to answer that is the 4% rule. The 4% rule says how much you can safely withdraw from a portfolio of a given size with minimal chances of the portfolio running out of money during retirement. Specifically, the rule says you can withdraw 4% of your portfolio's starting value and can increase the withdrawal amount each year to account for inflation. For example, if you have $1 million of investable assets when you start retirement, the 4% rule says you can safely withdraw $40,000 in the first year and then a bit more each year thereafter. Now, even though the 4% rule was designed to tell you how much you can withdraw from a given portfolio size, You can also use it in reverse to instead figure out how much portfolio you need to support a given withdrawal size. Continuing with the same example, once you know the amount of income you'll need to withdraw from your savings in the first year, divide that amount by 4%, or 0.04, to back into how much portfolio size you need to be able to support that level of annual withdrawal each year. In this case, if you need to withdraw $40,000 in your first year of retirement, the 4% rule says you'll need about $1 million of investable assets when you start retirement. Thankfully, the 4% rule also accounts for inflation. You won't be stuck withdrawing a flat $40,000 per year for the rest of your life. As an example, it allows the second year's withdrawal to be increased by the amount of inflation in that year. In our case, if inflation in the second year of retirement is 1%, let's say, the second year's withdrawal would be increased to $40,400, which is $40,000 plus 1% of $40,000. The third year's withdrawal would be increased from the second year's withdrawal by the amount of inflation in the third year, etc. Like all rules of thumb, the 4% rule relies on a lot of assumptions, so it's far from perfect. It assumes your portfolio is invested in diversified holdings of roughly 60% stocks and 40% bonds. It also assumes you withdraw no more than the prescribed amount each year. It additionally assumes your withdrawals will only be needed for about 30 years. The 4% rule may overstate your allowable withdrawals if your retirement ends up much longer than 30 years, and it will understate your allowable withdrawals if your retirement will be significantly shorter than 30 years. And probably the most debated assumption of all is that the 4% rule assumes stocks and bonds will perform as they have in the past. Many people feel stocks and bonds are not likely to perform as well as they have over the last few decades. With that in mind, many feel the 4% rule should be changed to the 3% rule, or even perhaps as low as the 2.5% rule. If you want to be a bit more conservative, then perhaps use 3% instead of 4%. In our example, if you needed $40,000 of withdrawals in your first year, the 3% rule would say you need a total portfolio of about $1,333,333 when you start retirement. Even though there are a lot of assumptions that go into the 4% rule, it's nonetheless a valuable tool. But keep in mind, it's not the end-all be-all, it's just an estimation. Your life and financial circumstances will inevitably change as you go through retirement, so you have to be agile in your financial planning through your retirement years. Well, that's a wrap for how to figure out how much money you need to retire. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel so you can be the first to know when new videos are posted. And don't forget to subscribe to my monthly newsletter, Retirement Planning Insights, which provides informative retirement planning tips and info. Also, be sure to join my free Facebook group, Taxes in Retirement, where you can get answers to all your retirement-related tax questions. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.